Jesus Christ saying that he's God himself doesn't appear to be really in the Bible in very clear terms. Him saying that I am God or worship, it doesn't clear to be in the Bible. And if you are going to say the Gospel of John has some of those references, well, the Gospel of John is a very late reference itself. So the idea that he said that about himself is not something we even grant you, frankly. But according to us, he didn't say that.
Now notice what he is saying here. He is saying the concept of Jesus being God isn't in the Bible. He's like, it's not clearly in the Bible. He doesn't claim saying, I am God or worship me. Sir, yes, he does. John 5:23, he says that all must honor the Son just as they honor the Father. He who does not honor the Son does not honor the Father who sent him. This is John 5:23. So we clearly see in John, Jesus saying to honor him just as you honor the Father. How do you honor the Father? By praying, by fasting towards him, by worshiping him, by offering to him. And he's saying, you must give me that same honor or you don't honor the Father at all. That's what he's saying. Does this sound like a Muslim? Of course not. But then he says later on to say, oh yeah, but John is a late reference. Of course, sure, you can find some references of Jesus being God in the Gospel of John. But sir, didn't you just say that you can't find Jesus claiming to be God in the Bible? But then you literally admit that in John, he claims to be God. What's going on here? You're contradicting yourself. But on top of this, in every single gospel, Jesus claims to be God. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, Jesus depicts himself as divine judge, righteous judge for the end of times, coming back to rule the world, which is something only God does in the Old Testament. And Jesus, of course, is claiming to be the fulfillment. Jesus says, I did not come to abolish the law, but I came to fulfill. So Jesus came to fulfill what is written about him in the law and the prophets, like we see in Luke chapter 24. Stuff that's written about him in the law and the prophets. John chapter 1, Philip going to Nathanael saying, look, we have found the Messiah of whom is written in the law and the prophets. Oh, so you're saying the Messiah is written about in the law of Moses and in the prophetic books of the Old Testament, and Jesus is the fulfillment of it? Oh my gosh, this is mind-blowing. Then we see in Mark, right? We see in the Gospel of Mark, Jesus saying he's Lord of the Sabbath. Does that sound like a Muslim? Only God is exempt from the Sabbath because he can work 7 days a week because he's God Almighty and has to sustain everything. And then you see Jesus saying, I'm Lord of the Sabbath. I'm in charge of this. Right? Does he sound like a mere creature? No, because in every single gospel he claims to be God and depicts himself as being God and divine. And notice this guy's foolishness. He doesn't believe John because it's a quote-unquote late text, which it's 1st century to 2nd century. It's not a late text. But then he believes the Quran, which came in the 6th century, written by Muhammad, a man who didn't know Jesus. But he believes his word, but doesn't believe John's word. This is what Islam does to your brain.